This video is made for entertainment purposes only. For years, the vast, impenetrable wilderness of British Columbia was dismissed as merely a backdrop for folklore, a place where campfire stories of the Sasquatch were nothing more than entertainment for tourists. But this footage changes everything. What you are about to see isn't just another blurry photo or a recounting of a memory. It is a compilation of digital evidence that has left skeptics silent and believers vindicated. If wildlife researchers were to examine these clips closely, they might find themselves staring at a biological impossibility. Before this footage gets buried by algorithms or dismissed as a hoax, we need to analyze what was caught on tape. In this video, we break down 20 distinct clips, analyze the biomechanics of the subjects, and explore what this surge in sightings could mean. What you're about to see might challenge everything you thought you knew about the North American wilderness. In late November 2024, a long-haul trucker named Mark was navigating the treacherous Coquihalla Highway in British Columbia. The weather was abysmal. Heavy rain and poor visibility at 2 a.m. creates a tunnel vision effect that drivers know well. However, what broke the monotony wasn't a deer or a bear, but a massive shape moving across the high beams. As Mark slowed his rig, the dashcam recorded a figure that defies conventional classification. If a zoologist were to review this, the first thing they might notice is the bipedal stride. The subject doesn't shuffle or knuckle walk like a bear or a gorilla, but rather strides with a fluid, heel-to-toe efficiency that is distinctly human-like, yet on a scale that suggests immense mass. Skeptics could argue this is a person in a suit, but the sheer speed at which the figure clears the concrete divider, without breaking its upright posture, suggests a biological strength far exceeding human capability. Mark reported that he didn't stop, overcome by a primal urge to keep moving, a reaction often cited in these encounters. Could this be the definitive proof of the Sasquatch migration corridors often whispered about by locals? 6 months prior, a solo hiker in the California redwoods captured this unsettling clip while documenting old-growth timber. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon when the silence of the grove was interrupted not by sound, but by movement in the periphery. As the hiker froze and raised his phone, he recorded a dark, vertical shape moving between the massive trunks. If experts were to analyze the scale here, using the redwood diameter as a reference, they might conclude the figure stands well over 7 feet tall. Note the posture. It is fully upright, with no tendency to drop to all fours, a critical distinction from known great apes. The gait is smooth and purposeful, covering difficult terrain with a stride length that would require a human to jog to match. Skeptics often point to shadows or stumps, but the lateral movement here is undeniable. The witness described a sudden drop in ambient noise, the Oz factor, just before spotting the figure. If authenticated, researchers might consider this evidence that these creatures use ancient forests not just for shelter, but for stealthy travel. Deep in the Atchafalaya Basin of Louisiana, a local hunter set up trail cameras to monitor wild boar populations. What he retrieved from the SD card was something far more disturbing. The timestamp reads 3:45 a.m., a time when the swamp is usually alive with nocturnal predators. However, this figure moving along the mud bank does not fit the profile of a bear or a human poacher. Wildlife biologists might note the arm length, long, extending past the mid-thigh, yet the creature maintains a perfectly erect, human-like posture. It does not hunch. It does not wade awkwardly. It moves with the confidence of an apex predator in its element. Skeptics could argue it's a person in waders, but the lack of any gear, light source, or hesitation in the pitch black suggests otherwise. If this is indeed the legendary Honey Island swamp monster, or a southern variant of the Sasquatch, it implies these creatures have adapted to semi-aquatic environments in ways we are only beginning to understand. The hunter who owns this camera has reportedly refused to return to this specific sector of the swamp. High in the Sierra Nevada range, a mountaineer was documenting his ascent when he spotted movement on an adjacent ridge line. The air is thin here, the terrain unforgiving, yet the figure captured in this clip navigates the scree slope with impossible ease. As the witness stabilized his footing to film, he captured a clear silhouette against the skyline. Should experts examine this, they would likely focus on the intermembral index, the ratio of arm to leg length. While the arms are long, the legs are powerful and long enough to support a sustained bipedal gait, unlike a gorilla which has shorter legs and relies on knuckle walking. The creature's head shape, distinctively conical, suggests the presence of a sagittal crest, a bone ridge often found in powerful primates, yet the face profile remains flat and humanoid. The witness described feeling exposed and vulnerable, watching something that moved with such authority in a place where humans struggle to breathe. Is it possible that high-altitude environments provide the perfect sanctuary for a relict hominid population? During a solo camping trip in Washington state, a survivalist heard heavy footsteps circling his perimeter. Armed with a night vision camcorder, he scanned the tree line and captured this chilling sequence. Through the green static, we see a massive figure navigating the dense undergrowth without a light source. If researchers were to analyze the biomechanics here, they might point out the lack of head bobbing typically seen in humans walking over uneven terrain. This subject's head remains on a steady plane, indicating a bent knee gait that absorbs shock and sound. Skeptics could argue it's a bear on two legs, but bears cannot sustain this posture while moving laterally for such a distance, nor do they possess the broad, square shoulders seen here. The witness reported a foul, musk-like odor permeating the camp shortly after filming this. If authenticated, this clip suggests that these creatures are not just passing through, but actively observing those who venture into their territory. We often associate Sasquatch with deep forests, but this dashcam footage from the Mojave Desert challenges that assumption. A truck driver on a red-eye run noticed a figure keeping pace with his vehicle in the distance. The creature in this clip appears lighter in color, perhaps a desert adaptation or simply covered in dust. Wildlife experts might note the incredible stamina required to run through sand at this speed. The figure remains fully upright, driving forward with powerful leg muscles, not loping like a canine or shuffling like a primate. Skeptics often dismiss desert sightings, but indigenous oral histories in the region have long spoken of the yucca man, a hairy giant of the rocks. If researchers were to examine the stride frequency here, they might find it matches the descriptions of a creature built for endurance hunting. The driver stated that as soon as he hit his air horn, the figure made a sharp turn and vanished into the darkness of the deep desert. An angler on the Olympic Peninsula was preparing for a morning of steelhead fishing when he noticed he wasn't alone on the river. Through the thick morning mist, his phone captured a large bipedal figure traversing the opposite bank. If a biologist were to review this, they would likely focus on the creature's interaction with the terrain. Notice how it steps over a large fallen cedar log, an obstacle that would force a human to climb or jump, without breaking its stride or altering its upright posture. This indicates a hip height significantly higher than an average human. Skeptics could argue it's a bear standing up, but bears cannot walk laterally for this duration, nor do they possess the flat facial profile seen in the silhouette. The witness, a man who has fished these waters for 20 years, noted that the birds in the area had gone completely silent moments before the sighting. Could this be a rare glimpse of a Sasquatch foraging during the twilight hours? During a search and rescue training exercise in Colorado, a volunteer tested a handheld thermal monocular and picked up a heat signature that shouldn't have been there. The footage displays a white-hot figure moving through the freezing forest. If researchers analyze the thermal gradient, they might note the uniform heat distribution across the massive torso and thighs, suggesting a large, warm-blooded mammal with significant muscle mass. Skeptics might claim it's a person in a ghillie suit, but thermal optics typically show cold spots on clothed humans where insulation blocks body heat. This figure glows with a consistent intensity. Furthermore, the gait is fluid and upright, covering ground with a speed that would be hazardous for a human in the dark. The volunteer noted that there were no other teams in that sector. Should this be authenticated, it provides compelling evidence that these creatures are masters of avoiding detection in the visible spectrum, but cannot hide their biological heat. A mountain biker in British Columbia captured this split-second encounter while bombing down a remote trail. The speed of the footage makes it hard to catch in real time, but when slowed down, a massive figure becomes visible crossing the track ahead. As the biker brakes and the camera stabilizes, we see the subject in the periphery. If experts were to review this frame by frame, they might point out the creature's reaction time. It doesn't freeze like a deer but continues its trajectory with calculated indifference. The posture is strictly bipedal, and the head shape exhibits the classic conical dome described in thousands of reports. Skeptics could argue it's another hiker, but the trail was closed for the season, and the figure carries no gear, wears no bright colors, and moves through the dense bush without slowing down. The biker admitted he turned around immediately, abandoning his run. Could this be a Sasquatch caught off guard by the speed of the cyclist? In the deep swamps of the Florida Panhandle, a local man checking his crawfish traps filmed this eerie sequence. The environment here is hostile: thick mud, snakes, and humidity. Yet the figure in the distance navigates it with disturbing ease. If a wildlife biologist were to examine the footage, they might note the gliding appearance of the upper body. This smoothness confirms the creature is lifting its feet high to clear obstacles while keeping its torso level, a biomechanical trait associated with efficient bipedalism in rough terrain. Skeptics might claim it's a bear, but the arms swing naturally at the sides, and the legs are clearly longer than the torso, a proportion reversed in bears. The witness described a silence falling over the swamp, a common precursor to sightings known as the predator effect. If verified, this clip adds to the growing body of evidence supporting the existence of the skunk ape, the southern cousin of the Sasquatch. A property owner in West Virginia set up a trail cam on a game trail known for deer traffic. Instead, he captured this fleeting glimpse of something far larger. The footage, triggered by motion, shows a bipedal figure striding across the gap in the trees. If researchers analyze the size relative to the surrounding vegetation, estimates place the figure at nearly 8 feet tall. Note the arm position. It's not using them for balance or locomotion like an ape. They hang loose and heavy. Skeptics could argue it's a hunter in camouflage, but the figure appears to be one uniform color, consistent with hair or fur, and lacks any visible equipment. The sheer bulk of the upper body, specifically the trapezius muscles creating a no-neck look, is classic Sasquatch morphology. The landowner reported finding strange stick structures in the area weeks prior. Could this be the architect of those formations returning to the site? We assume these creatures stay deep in the wilderness, but this dashcam footage from the outskirts of a chaotic suburban development suggests otherwise. A delivery driver finishing a late shift captured this figure crossing from a residential construction zone back into the forest. If experts were to review this, they might consider the theory that Sasquatch are opportunistic foragers, utilizing the fringes of human civilization under the cover of darkness. The figure's gait is casual, almost confident, as it transitions from the paved road to the tree line. Skeptics often dismiss urban sightings as pranks, but the height of the subject relative to the road signs suggests a stature that would be difficult to fake. The driver noted he felt an intense sense of being watched long before the figure appeared. If authenticated, this clip forces us to ask, are they closer to our backyards than we dare to admit? While surveying geological formations in Arizona, a researcher captured a figure moving along a sheer canyon rim. The drop-off here is lethal, yet the subject navigates the ledge with the balance of a mountain goat but the upright posture of a human. If a biologist analyzed the footage, they would note the compliant gait. The knees are constantly bent, lowering the center of gravity while maintaining bipedalism. This is crucial for stability on loose rock. Skeptics could argue it's a hiker off-trail, but the location is miles from the nearest trailhead, and the figure appears uniform in color, blending perfectly with the iron-rich soil. The witness stated that the figure seemed to be watching him from above before casually retreating. Should this be verified, it suggests that the Mogollon monster of Arizona folklore is more than just a myth. There are few things more terrifying than realizing you are being watched while you sleep. A backpacker in the Rockies left his night vision camera running inside his tent and captured this nightmare scenario. Through the mesh, a massive bipedal figure is seen stalking the perimeter of the camp. If experts were to review this, the sheer width of the shoulders relative to the trees would be the primary focus. The creature moves with absolute silence, a trait often reported by witnesses. Skeptics might claim it's a bear investigating food smells, but the posture is unmistakably human-like. It never drops to all fours. The conical shape of the head is clearly visible against the night sky. The backpacker discovered the footage only after returning home, realizing how close he came to an encounter with an apex predator. What was it looking for? And why did it leave without disturbing the sight? A birdwatcher in the Ozarks was tracking a woodpecker when his lens caught something much larger moving in the thicket. The video is chaotic, capturing the panic of the moment, but it reveals a large, dark figure pushing through the dense undergrowth. Wildlife biologists might note how the creature uses its arms to part the vegetation while maintaining a steady, upright pace, a very human-like behavior. However, the size of the brush being moved suggests a strength far beyond that of a man. Skeptics often point to pareidolia, seeing faces and leaves, but the consistent movement of the dark mass across the frame rules out optical illusion. The witness described a low, guttural growl that vibrated in his chest just before he started filming. If authenticated, This clip demonstrates the creature's ability to use dense foliage as natural camouflage, rendering them nearly invisible until they move. A wildlife researcher monitoring beaver activity in Minnesota checked his trail cams to find this inexplicable footage. A massive figure is seen walking across the top of a beaver dam, a precarious structure of loose sticks and mud. If experts were to analyze this, the balance displayed is extraordinary. The creature walks upright, heel to toe, without faltering, despite the uneven surface. A bear would crawl. A human would struggle for balance. The figure, however, moves with a fluid, athletic grace. Skeptics could argue it's a person, but who walks across a beaver dam in the middle of the night without a flashlight? The infrared camera captures the heat-reflective properties of the eyes, which glow in a way human eyes do not. This footage suggests that Sasquatch may utilize natural bridges like dams to traverse waterways, keeping their feet dry and leaving no tracks on the soft banks. An elk hunter in Idaho found the tables turned when he realized he was being shadowed from a parallel ridge. As the sun began to set, he filmed this figure matching his pace. If you look closely, the creature stops when the hunter stops, a classic behavior known as flanking. Wildlife experts might note this as predatory or territorial behavior. The figure stands tall, clearly bipedal, with a conical head silhouette breaking the horizon line. Skeptics might say it's another hunter, but the figure is dark, unclad, and carries no weapon. The witness reported an overwhelming sense of dread, forcing him to abandon his hunt and retreat to his vehicle. If authenticated, this clip is a terrifying reminder that in the wild, humans are not always the ones in control. Filmed from a boat on a remote lake in Ontario, this thermal footage captures a large heat signature patrolling the shoreline. The witness, a night fisherman, used a thermal scope to scan for moose but found this instead. If researchers were to analyze the thermal bloom, the size of the subject is immense. Watch as it stoops to drink from the lake. It bends at the waist while keeping its legs relatively straight, a display of flexibility and balance that is distinctly primate-like but far more controlled than a bear. Skeptics could argue it's a person, but again, the heat signature is uniform, indicating no clothing. The isolation of the location, accessible only by float plane or boat, makes the presence of a human prankster highly unlikely. Could this be evidence of the nocturnal habits of the Sasquatch, utilizing the waterways for hydration and travel under the cover of darkness? A logger ending his shift on a private road in Oregon captured this dashcam footage. The road is miles from the nearest public highway, behind locked gates. Yet, here we see a massive, bipedal figure crossing the gravel. If experts were to examine the stride length relative to the road width, it would indicate a step of nearly 5 feet. The figure moves with a purposeful, swinging gait, arms loose at the sides. Skeptics might claim it's a bear, but the head is carried high, and the profile is flat, not muzzled. The logger noted that the local wildlife usually scatters when the trucks come through, but this figure seemed indifferent to the heavy machinery. Is it possible that the noise of logging operations actually attracts curious Sasquatch, or simply flushes them out of their hiding spots? Our final clip comes from a father and son camping trip in Northern California. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the son spotted a giant man watching them from the meadow's edge. The father's phone captured this chilling final image. The figure stands motionless, blending perfectly with the tree line until it turns to leave. If a wildlife biologist were to review this, the sheer stillness of the subject is remarkable. It doesn't fidget or shift weight like a human would. When it finally moves, the turn is fluid, the entire body rotating in unison, a trait often described in reports due to the creature's massive neck muscles restricting head movement. Skeptics could argue it's a shadow, but shadows don't walk away. The father reported that they packed up and left immediately, driving through the night to get home. It serves as a haunting reminder that when we gaze into the wilderness, something might just be gazing back. We have examined 20 distinct clips from across North America, from the swamps of Louisiana to the high peaks of British Columbia. Patterns have emerged: the conical head shape, the immense stride, the lateral movement, and the unsettling silence that accompanies these sightings. What we've examined today represents a compelling collection of anomalies that defy easy explanation. Whether you're a skeptic demanding biological proof, or someone who believes there's an undiscovered species in our backyard, one thing remains clear. People are seeing something, and the consistency of these reports is impossible to ignore. These encounters continue to challenge conventional explanations and beckon us to look closer at the shadows. While these narratives explore genuine eyewitness accounts and the unknown, please note that the visualizations were generated using AI for immersive storytelling and educational purposes. Subscribe to this channel, enable notifications, and join us as we continue investigating the unexplained. The truth is out there, and we're committed to exploring it. Until next time, stay curious.